Over the past 3 years, I've completed 468 discovery calls and demos. Here's what works to lead your sales conversations to close. All right, here's our table of contents, what we're covering in today's video. We have 4 steps. Step number 1, perfecting the first 90 seconds of the call. Scripts and a live example are included. 2, top questions to ask and how to phrase them to get long, detailed responses out of your prospects. 3, how to demo step by step. And step number 4, closing out that conversation the right way to book that next meeting, that next conversation, and have it on the calendar with the prospect. The first 90 seconds, the non-salesy way. There are 3 elements of a great start to a sales call. Element number 1, align on the objective. What is the goal for the call? If I'm driving somewhere, this is the final destination point. Element number 2, align on the agenda. How will our time be spent to achieve that goal? This is the directions to get to our final destination point. And element number 3, which is oftentimes missed by most salespeople, align on the next decision. What is the next step if continuing the conversation makes sense? It might sound something like this. You're gonna spend the first couple minutes of that conversation as people are hopping on your WebEx, your Zoom, your Teams, building some rapport with the prospect. No more than 2 minutes. Don't focus on asking, how's the weather? How was the snow last week? Or how was your weekend? Nobody cares about that. That's what every other salesperson does to build rapport. To actually build strong rapport and a connection with the prospect, spend that time showing you did some research on them specifically or their company. Maybe the company has a new product coming out in a couple months, and that might impact their job. Ask them some questions about that new product, see if they're excited about it. That's how you build rapport. You then want to transition to sharing your agenda. Can we talk about the agenda? Here's what I was thinking. Let me know if you have a different agenda in mind. The outcome I recommend we shoot for is, that's the goal. To get there, here's the agenda I have in mind. You're gonna share what you're gonna cover, how we're gonna spend the time with the prospect during that conversation. By the end, I'd like to put you in a position where you can decide, do we schedule a next logical step to explore this a bit further, or part ways? Sound fair? Now here's an example from one of my calls, an actual sales call with the prospect following this structure. Looking at the calendar, Ramon, I have us down for 45 minutes. I don't think this conversation is going to take 45, probably more like 30. But how are you on time? Any hard stops I should be aware of?
No, I'm good for the rest of the day. I mean, it's Friday. My Fridays are usually pretty empty.
I'm with you, man. I'm with you.
I'm cool with whatever.
Awesome. Here is what I was looking to accomplish in the next 30 minutes or so. Of course, want to get your buy-in and feedback towards this game plan. It's important, Ramon, before I hop into the Mans 360 demo portal, that I first get a good understanding on how you folks are managing your mobile devices today, some of the challenges around that, and really what you're looking to accomplish with this project by potentially offloading your devices from Meraki and moving them to Mans 360. That way, when I share up my screen, hop into the demo portal, that portion of the conversation can be tailored to your specific use cases. And by the end of the conversation, I'd like us to be in a spot where you're either interested and we schedule a good next step that makes sense for you and your team, or you're not interested, you let me know. You're not going to hurt my feelings at all, so we can avoid wasting time. That's what I was looking to accomplish, Ramon, in the next 30 minutes. This is your time. I'm super flexible. What would you like to add to that agenda to make sure this is a productive conversation today?
Yeah, so I mean, pretty much.
A few things to point out in that recording. Confirm time and attendance. Time specifically is super important here, because if I have a conversation with a prospect that's an hour on the calendar, but they only have 30 minutes to have that conversation, I need to know that at the start of the call, because that time difference or that time reduction is going to greatly impact how I conduct the call, the agenda, and oftentimes the goal. Discovery before demo. Yes, I know the prospect is here to see the demo. I completely get it, but in order to tailor that demo to their specific needs, their use cases, to solve their challenges, I need to ask some questions. So I want to indicate that at the very start of the conversation. I'm going to get their buy-in. It's a two-way street, not a one-way street, and it's memorized. I've done, as you can tell, I already told you at the start of the call, 468 of these over the last 3 years. When I was just starting out in my role, I had my agenda on my table, in front of me, on my desk, and I read it word for word. So if you're just starting out, there's no shame in reading it word for word. Over time, like I did, you will have it memorized and internalized. Awesome. We kicked off the conversation the right way. We had all 3 elements in the first 90 seconds of the call. Discovery the non-salesy way. There are two different types of opportunities in sales. The first, inbound opportunities. These are folks that are actively exploring solutions like ours. They came to us, maybe they filled out a form on the company website to see a demo, and they're often competitive. So if they haven't already spoken to our competitors, they're gonna speak to our competitors at some point. That's inbound. Outbound is the second type of opportunity, which most of you are probably familiar with because I know a lot of you guys cold call based on the content on this YouTube channel. These are folks who have latent pain. So they have a pain point, there's pain there, but they might not be aware of it. We went to them. So we cold called them, we sent them a cold email, we connected with them on LinkedIn, we reached out to them and set up a meeting, which I think a lot of your opportunities are probably outbound today. And they're oftentimes, at least at this point, not competitive. For inbound, these are buyers that are eager to talk about solutions. They're eager to get right into it. For outbound, that's not the case. They're kind of cold to us. They don't really want to talk to a salesperson. They're reluctant to answer any sort of questions. And the problem that arises, guys, when doing discovery is the big problem here. Friction will arise with a buyer when we, the salesperson, are not aligned with where they are on the buyer's journey. For example, we're dealing with an inbound lead. They came to us, they're actively exploring solutions. I did not cold call them to set a meeting. So on the sales funnel, they're in the evaluation and decision phase. But I'm conducting that call, I'm leading that conversation, acting like they're at the top of the sales funnel, asking questions to uncover latent pain. That conversation is not gonna go over all that well. And on the reverse, maybe I cold call somebody and I set a meeting with them. But I hop on that call and I'm asking questions and acting like they're evaluating solutions. And they're like, hold on, man, what are you talking? We don't even know we have pain yet. So we're not aligned with where the prospect is on the buyer journey. Therefore, we have to approach these opportunities much differently. For an inbound opportunity, somebody who came to us, after we share the agenda, the next step is to ask a question that goes after solutions and desired outcomes. An example, tell me about what motivated you to look into insert your solution category. Now, oftentimes, guys, when you ask a question like this, the prospect is going to come back and share pain points, challenges they're looking to solve with your solution, which is what we need. Without a challenge, without a pain point, we do not have a chance to close the sale. But a lot of times, they don't come back with a challenge. They don't come back with a pain point. Now, me and you have been doing this a long time at this point, so we probably know what those challenges are based on what they're looking for, but we need them to verbalize what that challenge is. And we do that by simply saying something like this. Awesome, Chris, that gives me a good idea of what you're looking for in a solution. I'm curious to learn, what was the original challenge or challenges that popped up within your business where you folks were like, you know what? We gotta find a better way to go about this because this is super annoying. Something as simple as that is gonna tease out what those challenges are. For outbound, we went to them. They did not come to us asking to see a demo. So if we start that call after the agenda by asking questions, what most salespeople do is pepper the prospect with questions, which we never want to do that. That's going to turn them off and they're probably going to hang up, or they're going to turn their camera off and just check emails and wait for us to stop talking. We don't want that to happen. So for outbound opportunities, we need to earn the right to ask questions, and we earn the right to ask questions by delivering a discovery prompter. And I got this also from Chris Orlob and Gom. Typically, whenever I meet folks like you who head up insert their area, they are facing a few challenges when it comes to insert what you sell. The first challenge they might have, and you're going to share that first challenge in language a fifth grader can understand with no buzzwords in a decent amount of detail. You're going to do that for 2 more challenges and then end with this question. But I don't know how much of any of that sounds like your world and what I missed that you're focused on. Most of the time, because you know your prospects well, one of those challenges will resonate. But every once in a while, it's not gonna resonate, which is okay. The prospect is gonna come back and correct you, which is gonna lead you on the right path to have that conversation with the prospect. So for both inbound and outbound, our goal at the start of the conversation, where you go about these 2 completely different ways because they're different opportunities, they're at different parts of the sales cycle, the sales funnel, is we need to tease out the problems. Here are some great questions to ask on your discovery calls. Curious, what problems do you face with your current solution that you would regret if not solved 6 months from now? Can you walk me through the biggest challenges you face when it comes to X? Now, this is my all-time favorite discovery question. Forget who I got it from. I have to imagine at some point, you and your team had a meeting to discuss the problem, define the problem, and agree to take action to solve it. What did that meeting sound like? That is one of the best worded, crafted questions I've ever heard of. Killer question, and oftentimes when I ask that question, they take a step back, they're like, wow, that was a great question. And their response is a long, detailed response to that question, which is what we're looking for. Can you walk me through the ripple effects this challenge is having on the rest of your business? Who else is impacted by this challenge? How deep does it go? How far does it go? We need to understand that. What's driving you to solve this issue now rather than later? I ask this question on just about all of my calls because I'm meeting with a prospect who's never had a solution like mine. Oftentimes, they've never had a solution like mine. So why now? What happened in the business where now is the time to look into this? I want to know that. To what extent is it important for you and the business to solve this challenge? How would you prioritize it among your other priorities? If they come back to me and say, hey, Matt, it's pretty low on our totem pole of priorities, I'm probably not going to want to focus on that opportunity. It needs to be a top priority for me to close the deal. What has changed since we last spoke? Now, this is a question, obviously, you're not going to ask on a first conversation with a prospect. But whenever you're meeting with a prospect you've met in the past, start the conversation by asking this question. Because oftentimes, things change, priorities change, employees leave, goals change. You need to understand that to keep that deal on track to the finish line. And tell me more about that. Tell me more about that. It's more of a phrase than a question, but it's killer because you got to think about it like this, guys. Questions or discovery is like peeling back an onion. The first time we ask a question, we're peeling it back a little bit, but it's surface level. We need to get to the core of the problem. And we do that with something as simple as that. Tell me more about that. That's interesting. Can you provide a bit more detail? Simple questions like that, guys, go a long, long way. And how you ask questions matters. It's all about how you frame and tee up that question. For example, we have two options here. Option number one, how do you get your devices set up? Option number two, can you walk me through the last employee that you folks onboarded? What did the process look like to get that employee's laptop, iPhone, Android device set up, configured in their hands for their use as an employee? Which of those two questions do you think gets a longer, more detailed response from a prospect? If it's option number one, do not subscribe to this YouTube channel and never watch one of these videos again. It's option number two. How we phrase and tee up our questions will get longer, more detailed responses from prospects. Some of the top phrases to start your discovery questions with. Talk to me about, walk me through, out of curiosity, help me understand. The two biggest ones for me, guys, are walk me through and out of curiosity. So these phrases before your question demonstrate to the prospect, hey, I'm looking for some detail here. I'm looking for some detail here. Little things like this, guys, go a super long way because discovery is the most important yet hardest part of the entire sales process. Demo the non-salesy way. Before hopping into the demo, there's a few things we need to take care of to set that demo up for success. Number one, we need to summarize the conversation. This is going to show the prospect, hey, I have been actively listening to you throughout the conversation. Now, if there's anything that I missed, maybe there's a few challenges we didn't discuss yet, this is going to give the prospect the opportunity to present those challenges to me, which might spark more discovery. And it's also going to indicate to the prospect, hey, the demo you're about to see is not going to be like a demo from every other salesperson you suffered through, which was a generic demo that showed all these different and cool features that aren't pertinent to the use case. This demo is going to be tailored and specific to you. Chris, before sharing out my screen and hopping into the demo, I want to recap what I learned so far, what's important to you, your challenges, what you're looking to accomplish with this project. That way I know exactly what to show you in the demo. A question that accomplishes this, what challenges haven't we discussed as it pertains to XYZ that you would like to verify there is a solution to solve them in the demo. And number two, validate that this is going to be time well spent. They're in the right spot. They're not wasting their time. As you're sharing out your screen to hop into your demo portal, say something as simple as this. Based on what you share with me, we're going to do a great job partnering to solve these challenges. Or, based on what you told me, your challenge is what you're looking to accomplish, you're going to really like this. There are 5 commandments of demoing. Number 1, show the most important feature first. 99.99% of sellers do not do this. Instead, what they do is they do this ramp up demo where they're waiting for this final mic drop moment at the end of the demo to impress the prospect. When it does the exact opposite, it pisses them off. Start the demo with the feature that solves their biggest challenge and work your way down. Solve exactly. Solve the prospect's pain on a one-to-one basis. The phrase "we can also" overwhelms buyers. So if during discovery, I find one simple little challenge they have, and that is it, and there's one feature in the demo that solves that challenge, that's the demo. Again, "we can also" will overwhelm them, oversell them, and lose them. Orient them to the screen. Oftentimes when we're demoing, the prospect is thinking, what the heck am I even looking at? So pause, take a step back, orient them to the screen with a simple phrase. Now, Chris, what you're looking at here is, with a simple explanation. PIF. I got this framework from my friend Moore. He is a coach for SMB and mid-market tech sellers. He's one of the best sales coaches out there. This tip here, guys, is killer.
PIFF, PIF, pain, impact, feature, feedback. And that is like every time I show a feature, I'm going to do this, essentially. And remember, every time I show a feature that's related to the prospect's pain or goal, not just a random feature.
Oh, this is awesome, man.
So if it's a random feature, I won't really have context into how that solves their pain. It'll just be like a random feature. And that's what happens. Reps do very light discovery. They show features, but they talk about features in a very generic way because they don't have enough context. So PIF, how does that work? So PI, that's pain impact. So what does that mean? You literally are bringing up the prospect's pain and the impact of that pain, if you have it, before you show the feature. So Matt mentioned problem and impact. So what I'm about to show you will solve problem. So
that's awesome.
So
very simple.
Very simple. You can fill in the blanks. It's pretty damn easy. And you'll notice this exercise forces you to say, oh, wow, I don't know the impact. Or maybe I know the pain, but not the impact. I didn't do a good enough job on the impact side. Damn, I got to improve my discovery. And so that's the pain impact. So this is an example of it. John, you mentioned earlier that your salespeople don't know how and when to follow up with prospect. That's a pain. And that's causing new hot leads to slip through the cracks and decreasing your win rates by 8%.
Impact.
Yep. So what I'm about to show you will automatically tell them who to contact based on the highest chance to close. Right? So, oops. And then you have the feature. So we talk about pain impact. This is an example of pain impact. We do this before showing the feature. When you show the feature, it's probably more important how you set up the feature than what you actually talking about the feature. This part contextualizes the feature. Then when you show the feature, keep it high level. Don't get too technical. Again, it depends on which demo you're on. If you're on demo number 10, then maybe this is more of a technical demo. And then once you're done showing the feature, your goal is feedback. Remember, PIFF, pain, impact, feature, feedback. Feedback doesn't mean, hey, do you have any questions? It's, I really want to understand, like, this is the prospect, right? They're in their mind, they have a gauge as that's going to tell them, yeah, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Nope, I don't know, based on what you're showing them. How do you know? You don't know. So you have to ask them, based on what I showed you, does this align with what you're looking for? Based on what I showed you, do you feel like this would solve your problem? On a scale of 1 through 10, 10 being, this is exactly what I need, or 1 being, why are you showing me this, Matt? Where does this fall in terms of solving XYZ problem? And I'm doing this throughout the demo because I'm trying to, I think I mentioned it before, and like in our previous sessions, micro close them. Closing doesn't happen at the end of the demo, it happens throughout the demo. So when I show a feature that's supposed to solve a problem that prospect mentioned earlier on, post-feature, I'm going to find out. In a blunt conversation, hey, Matt, you had this problem. I just showed you how to solve this problem. Do you believe it solves the problem? If they say yes, I just close them on that feature or micro close them. If they say no, I can't move on to the next feature. If they say, yeah, kinda, what a lot of reps do is, okay, cool, and then they move on. Yeah, kinda isn't a hard yes. It's sorta, I'm not really sure yet. I need more convincing.
So it sounds like I missed the mark somewhere.
Right.
Something as simple as that, okay.
Or it could be something like, hey, Matt, what parts of the feature do you feel like wouldn't work for you? Like, I will ask an objection-facing question. Like, I want to find out objections as much as possible, as early as possible.
Discovery never ends. Most sellers think it ends when the demo starts. It's now time for me to talk at the prospect and pitch slap them. And that's why most people hate salespeople, but not me and you. We need to continue to ask questions and uncover other challenges, and they're probably gonna pop up when they look at the demo throughout that conversation. Some of my favorite questions to ask to gain feedback from a prospect after I share a feature in the demo. What was going through your mind as I walked you through that feature? To what degree do you find that useful? To what degree is this resonating so far? How does that compare to what you're doing today? How does that compare to what you were expecting? Where would you like to go deeper with questions? That one is killer, because that question is much, much better than asking any questions, or does that make sense? Two of the all-time worst questions you could ask on a sales call. Booking next steps the non-salesy way. First, transition from demo to close. Of all your challenges we discussed, is there any you feel I haven't addressed on today's demo? Or, Chris, what were you hoping to see or learn that I brushed over or didn't touch on at all as of yet? Those questions are verifying they saw everything they needed to see in the demo to feel comfortable, hopefully, moving forward. Step number 2, verify you're a viable option. Chris, before talking through next steps and pricing, what do you think? Do you think this is a viable option to solve the challenges we spoke about throughout the call? And I need the prospect to verbalize they think my solution is a viable option. I can't just tell them it is. I need them to tell me it is. Super important question to close out that call the right way. Now, if the prospect comes back in a not confident tone and says, I think it can be, I need to call that out. It sounds like I missed the mark somewhere. Tease that stuff out with a label. Third, understand the buying process. Chris, can you walk me through the steps you and your team need to take internally to make a confident yes or no decision on this? Maybe procurement's involved. I need to know. Legal. Maybe there's other stakeholders I wasn't aware of that are involved that I might need to multi-thread into the deal to get to a yes. I need to know that. And then for forecasting and timeline purposes, for Salesforce, I'm gonna ask a question as simple as this. I wanna match your urgency with this project. When you folks find the right solution, when's the absolute latest, key phrase there, absolute latest, you will want this implemented? And then step number 4, I'm gonna recommend a next step with this question. Killer question. Based on our conversation, Chris, you mind if I recommend a next step? I have yet to have somebody come back and object to that question. Make a strong recommendation on a next step based on previous projects, previous clients. When they agree to the next step, and hopefully they will, if they don't and they're still alive, you're still gonna have some sort of next step on the books. It might not be the one that you're recommended, but if it's an opportunity that is alive, it's a viable option, you're not leaving that call without that next meeting on the books and the prospect accepting it. Too many salespeople don't do that. They leave the conversation and say, hey, I'll follow up with you via email. And then you're in email purgatory, email hell, you're going back and forth and you never get that prospect back on the line. If an opportunity is in your pipeline right now and a next step is not on the books, you might as well close Lawson. That deal is not getting across the finish line. Guys, hopefully this video helped you out. This is my process. I am working SMB and mid-market deals. Every once in a while, I work an enterprise deal. This workflow would not work for enterprise deals. It works for SMB, mid-market. Let me know what your favorite part of this process is in the comment section below. I appreciate you watching, guys. Thanks a lot.